Yo, what is good to all of my good and nerdy people? It is a good Thursday afternoon here. Look, I'm hella hyped to talk about Secret Invasion tonight. I think the way I feel about the episode might really surprise a lot of y'all. I'm excited to see what y'all got to think about Secret Invasion. Gotta get into some of the theories I got from it, some of the spoilers. Well, not necessarily some of the spoilers, but just some of the big moments that happen in it, right? But some theories that I think that there's going to be huge for episodes 2 and moving on. And also what the show really needs to like deliver what Marvel is looking for, right? Because right now Marvel is looking for a win. Marvel is looking for a dub. And this show needs to deliver what they need. And yeah, I got to get my take on whether or not they did that in the first episode and just kind of where this stacks up with the rest of the first episodes from Disney Plus MCU series. But all in all, I like the show. But we're going to get into it. But first, I got to say what's good to my people in the chat. We got Justified, man. What's going on, my brother? We got Jared in the building as well. What's happening? It is good seeing y'all. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all enjoyed the episode or what have you. But without further ado, man, let's go ahead and get into it here. I think I got to turn this down. And as always, let me know if the audio is good. If the audio is looking good on there, give me a fist in the chat. But look, let's go ahead and get right into it and come out here and start off here. We're gonna run down through the episode. What's going on, Mr. Griffin? How's it going, bro? We're gonna be running down through the episode, right? And I just want to start off here with this AI. Because apparently people have been tripping over the AI, and I think it died down now, right? Since those post-credit scenes came out, and now we've been able to see that, like, nobody lost their job. They just used the AI. And to be honest, I never thought it would be a big deal to use AI in this instance. Like, to me, like, that type of art, type of feel is probably what they were looking for, and I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But apparently it was to some folks. Either way, that's neither here nor there. Just wanted to touch on that real quick. I'm not going to spend too long on that because like that really had no impact on the show. But this is where I do want to start off with is Everett Ross. Here's the thing. Did this hit for y'all? When they did the whole Everett Ross thing, like, did it hit for y'all? Did it make y'all think like, damn, like, that's really like, is it like, what did it make you think? Like, do you think like we've been seeing Everett Ross all this time? Like, I think it's kind of setting down an interesting premise to where it's like, do they have Agent Ross in captivity or not? And I think that's something that they're going to have to explain in the show. Like, as these people are taking over these personalities, is it basically two Rosses walking around right now? Or do they have Ross under custody? And if so, how long has this Ross been in this situation? I don't know what y'all think in the chat. Like, how long do you think Agent Ross has been a Skrull? I personally think that the Ross that we saw the Ross that we saw get shot wasn't a Skrull. I feel like Mike got snatched recently, but when did he leave? That's the thing, like, Ross might be the perfect person because I don't know. Like, I don't think they maybe brought him to Wakanda. I think they might have just broken him out. And that would explain why he was in Russia, because I was also wondering at the same time, if Ross was supposed to be in jail or if he was broken out by Wakanda, why would he be in Russia, right? Like, why is everybody in Russia right now? So it really made me think that this Ross may be doppelganging. Maybe they took advantage to say nobody knows where Ross is. But on the other hand, they would have had to snatch him to like kind of do that whole mind flayer thing and read his mind, right? And take his mind. So on that hand, we do have to think that they have to have Ross's body. So in that, I guess, instance, you could assume that maybe the Wakandans let Ross go and he escaped to Russia or wherever where he got snatched. But it's very interesting. But to to me, like, the thing is, if we find out Ross is a scroll, I feel like for this show to really do what it needs to do, we have to see what Ross was doing as a scroll, right? Like, I want to kind of see some flashbacks of Ross when he first became a scroll. I don't mind taking that time in this kind of show. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like, if you really want to make this hit, like, if you really want to make this Ross scene hit, show him actually doing something back then, right? Anyway, we're going to the next one. This next scene, I want to take a second to talk about Nick Fury and like what they're doing with Nick Fury. I know everybody's talking about doing this whole like character exposition, like, you know, what happened after the blip. And they may do that through Nick Fury, but I in no fucking way think that Nick Fury is going through it like this. I fucking think that this is all part of the game that Nick Fury is playing. Like, from the moment that my man's like stepped off the ship, he kind of looked to play that game like that old hobble game, like, damn, back on Earth, like I'm not myself type of shit. But it's the little subtle things that makes you think that Nick Fury is himself. Like, I'm gonna point something out here. Do you remember during this scene before he started talking? He went and looked through that record crate, right? He went and looked through those vinyls. When he pulled out the vinyl and started talking, he got in his mood. He got in his bag. It reminded me a lot of how he was talking back in the Winter Soldier movie. Whenever he was in Captain America's apartment, and he played that music. That was mostly because he was being trapped. But I would assume that Nick Fury, Sam Jackson, has some type of like mystique when it comes to his music. But like my man's Mr. Griffin said, he's playing a 4D chess act, right? Like, to me, he isn't this game that he's playing ain't like, it ain't it. Like, he's not this type of humble dude, or he's not this type of scared dude. That's not it. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with Nick Fury going forward, though, because like, I'm wondering how long it'll take for that act to wear off. I do think he is wrestling with some things like losing Soren. You know what I mean? He could be, I don't know how close he was with Gravik. Maybe that could be coming into play. But now, especially since, you know, he lost Maria Hill, we will maybe see a different side of Nick Fury that we haven't seen before. And I think that would be genuine. But this whole, like, I've been blipped away and I'm suffering from the blip thing, like, bruh, that ain't it. That ain't it. All right, next up we got, I just wanted to talk about, like, just the VFX. Let me know. Like, it doesn't feel as good as it did back in the day, when they did it back in like Captain Marvel, right? Like when Captain Marvel, when we first saw the scrolls and how they were shifting. Does it necessarily feel like as cool to y'all as it did like back then? Like, to me, like, it even kind of looked like it was painful for some scrolls to take form in the human form. Now, maybe if you like do it more often, you'll be able to switch. But even then, it used to be if you were switching, it looked painful as hell. Like, it didn't look like no easy type of switch shit. So I don't know. Like, I didn't know if it was VFX or budget wise. There were also a couple of other budget wise things that kind of threw it off there. But I'm not tripping. And here, like, I just want to point it out that Khaleesi, the queen, the breaker of chains, the mother of dragons, is back, bro. She is back on the TV screen. How do y'all think she did? Look, I'm not gonna lie, like, what won me over a lot was just seeing the evolution of her in the Game of Thrones. I don't know how much room she has for that type of evolution in this show or in the MCU altogether. But I will say I think she did a decent job. She did a decent job. Now, here's where I want to talk about. Here's something I want to talk about here. Boo did good. She did good. And by the way, I think they did a pretty good job of separating her from the Game of Thrones thing, right? Like with Dane Whitman, it still kind of feels like a little bit of the Game of Thrones thing. Like, but what you did with like Richard Madden, right? I mean, like he was able to kind of get away from that, but I think with Dane Whitman, it still felt a little like, hey, it's the king of the North, type of thing. What they're doing here with her, I think that she's done a good job of like separating that character. I'm not really a big like this feels a little like kind of how I say it. It feels weird just to see this stuff here like that. To be honest, the whole layer shit feels kind of weird. So these people, what they want their whole planet? The Skrulls want their whole own planet for what? Are they not just happy with a place to live? But they want Fury to find them a planet, but they can't go find a planet. Like I'm really kind of this shit kind of feels entitled because to me it seems like they're living a good fucking life in these radioactive spots where humans don't want to go. Like just like the Asgardians are making their whole new Asgard. Why can't we have it to where the Skrulls are making their new scroll, like new Skrull Guard or whatever they want, right? Like they're making their Skrull land, their Skrull nation, have them be their own nation. Like to me, to settle, they're in hiding, but like to live amongst us, I feel like would be enough for them, right? Like at this point, we already got enough going on Earth. To have another alien race on Earth would be like, all right, cool, whatever. Now I do get the worries of having Skrulls, but I mean at the same time, you also got other shapeshifters out there with powers like we saw in unfortunately in She-Hulk. It just seems kind of like rash to me, but I get the need for the plot. I get the need for the plot, but it looked like they were living pretty decently for at least for refugees, especially to have this back. Now, and I am gonna when I am gonna come back to this kind of point here though with that, as far as like which when she's talking about like having certain Skrull bodies like kidnapped as isolated that she doesn't even know about. I'm gonna come back to that point because I think that's gonna be very important for this show to deliver what it needs to. This part here, I had a question about just the Skrulls and the fighting and what they can do. Like when it comes to the Skrulls, like let me know y'all's thoughts in the chat. And it's like the power scaling in Marvel is always a little wild and always a little wacky and all. But let me know what you think in the chat. When they were running, when Ross was running from Agent Prescott, or no, not Agent Prescott. When Ross was running from Talos. What's going on, Vito? Thanks for the super chat. He says humans are obsessed with escapism through movies, comics, art, daydreams. Our souls really aren't made for this world. Much love, Vito, for the $5 holler. Much love. Much love, man. I appreciate that, bro. I really appreciate it. But like, Marvel has always been off with the power scaling, right? Like Marvel never really hits it with like having the powers in check. So when it comes to the Skrulls, like, can I get a room temperature check just on, do they have superhuman abilities, right? Like, can they run? Can they jump? To me, that fall shouldn't have killed that Skrull if they got these superhuman abilities. Like, to me, like, if you're able to kick somebody like that and throw somebody like that right there, then you should be able to at least make that jump or survive that fall. I don't know. It just felt a little. that stuff always feels kind of weird to me, especially like when they're throwing them out there. But I do love the action. Like, give them all the superpowers they need, right, bro? Like, give them all the extra shit they need. So I'm feeling that. All right, this next part here. This figuring this out will determine whether or not, like, a lot about what I think about the next episode, and we're kind of going to talk through it right now. Like, so, is Gaia actually trying to go do her dad a favor, or is she setting the bait? Is she the trap? Has she really come back, or is she setting a trap for her dad? And I think the answer is it looked like she took the death of her mom hard. Like, if you blinked, you would have seen how she took the death of her mom. And you would see how, like, that would turn her against what she's doing, hopefully, right? So in my eyes, she's coming around to appear to be on the good side. Now, this could be a whole 4D chess play on their move. You think she's resistance through and through? Here's the thing, like, I think this could be like a move to maybe get her to gain trust on their side, because at the end of the day, I would love for her to come around and end up being the Scroll Queen. I would love it for them to kind of switch it around and for her to become the Scroll Queen, because I would love for this to go on and actually become a bit of what Secret Invasion, like, for this to lead us through a saga where we're actually having like a Secret Invasion storyline playing through with our superheroes. So just have this be the kickoff for that. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I think I don't know, Mr. Griffin. I have to disagree with you, Mr. Griffin. I think she's actually letting them go. I have to disagree with you. I think she's actually like stepping away from the resistance, getting on Talos' side here. Now, I did want to put, what do you guys think of the dude playing Gravik? To be real, like, the dudes, if you notice something, I noticed something whenever Doctor Strange is playing. Doctor Strange's face always looks a little bit weird when it's on camera. Like they're kind of doing some alterations or something. Like, especially if you go watch Multiverse of Madness, or if you especially watch No Way Home, his face looks just a little bit weird on camera. And it's the same thing with this dude. Like, this dude kind of looks almost AI or CGI, right? Or kind of de-aged. I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, Gravik as a villain reminds me a lot of the Flag Smashers, Morgenthau. I hope we don't get Morgenthau with this one. Like, I really hope we don't get Carly Morgenthau with this one. But from the little bit of vibes that we got from him, the demeanor, the way they're talking, the way their actions are, I'm getting a lot of the same vibes. And that is a bit concerning when it comes to the villain. If he is the true villain of this, like if he is the true leader, which he might not be the big bad leader of this. He might just be like the radical fascist leader, you know, the boots on the ground, maybe a general leader. And then your bigger ranking officials in the government could be those people. Yeah, it just didn't hit for me. But that's just him like that's just where they're going on. But I do love what he did here. He took out Maria Hill. That's an instant badass shit. Like, Morgenthau didn't do that. That's an instant damn. You know, a lot of villains, when you think about it, a lot of villains don't get to take out people like that, right? Like, they don't get to make that happen. I mean, what Morgenthau did kill, somebody did kill old Johnny Hero dude that was rocking with Walker, right? Lamar Hoskins, right? Somebody did kill him. Yeah, Battlestar. She did kill Battlestar. That's right. Yeah, I was trying to say that. She did kill Battlestar. But to take somebody out like Hill, like Maria Hill, and I actually do think that Maria Hill is dead. Like, look at her. She got the blood coming out the mouth. That's an instant telltale that your girl is dead. I do think that she is indeed dead in this instance. That's a big thing to pull, bro. That's a big thing to pull. So yeah, this episode, bro, like, I'm gonna be real, this episode gets about an 8 for me. Maybe a 7.5, but I'll lean towards 8 because of the ending. I do think it's a pretty strong ending for what it was. I don't know. I'm gonna save my thoughts for this next piece of the conversation. But first, I do want to get into just some of the threads for episode 2. I do think this is going to lead directly into episode 2. You got a dead U.S. operative over there in Europe, in Russia. So there is going to be some government questions, some real ass conversations going down here. I think they did definitely set up something with Rhodey, right? Also, man, like, did Rhodey have? Did anybody notice is Rhodey walking with anything, bro? Is my man Rhodey fully recovered? I don't think Rhodey was walking with anything. Or it's a sign that he's a Skrull. But apparently Rhodey, I think at this point, Rhodey is supposed to be Secretary of State. Which is a pretty huge position. And that is the president. We're seeing the president, I think, for the first time. And both of these motherfuckers are Skrulls. You think he still might be using Stark Tech? He very well could be. Just more advanced type shit, right? Did he have legacy since was he in Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Let's go back and look. I don't think he did. I had to go back and look. I know he had it in Endgame. So to me, like, if you're still having to have it in Endgame, then like this ain't no more than like maybe 2 or 3 years later, and you've been pushing at it for like, at that point, like 8 years. He should still be in the legs. Like, he should still be having an assistance with the legs. You know what I'm saying? But either way, that's neither here nor there. Either way, that's neither here nor there. Look, my man's Rhodey. He's definitely a Skrull. Like, from the way he's talking about them two being AWOL, and he is dead ass serious about it, he's a Skrull. And I definitely think we're going to be seeing that scene that we see from the trailer where him and Fury are talking, and they'll probably be talking about Maria Hill's death. I don't know if that's revealed. If they reveal Rhodey to be a Skrull next week, then they're going to have to keep revealing people to be Skrulls each week, bro. Like, something's going to have to get crazy. But, like, at this point, Rhodey's not big enough to be a reveal. Like, that's going to blow our minds. At this point, I think everybody's putting their money that Rhodey is a Skrull. Especially after what... If Rhodey's not the Skrull, that would be a bigger surprise than Rhodey being a Skrull. I'm going to be real. That would be the biggest surprise of Rhodey being a Skrull. And to me, that's not enough. Not enough. With that being said, let's get into our second topic of the day. And that is this enough? And like, you got to think about this conversation coming from the perspective of Marvel needing dubs, or Marvel trying to bounce back to where they need to be, Marvel getting to where they need to be in on Disney Plus with their shows, what have you, right? This is their first show in a minute. This is their first show after the biggest bomb of all time, which is She-Hulk. Now, at this point, we need Marvel to up their shit. Now, we needed to get bigger, right? I know Secret Invasion comes at a tough time because it was probably mostly done by the time they realized we're not doing enough. It's probably mostly done, and they probably tried to do the best that they could do. And I get that, and for that, like, they get leeway. For that, it's not like all doom and gloom, right? But let me ask y'all, like, did this episode deliver a wow moment? Were you ever like, even when Maria Hill got shot by Nick Fury, I wasn't like, oh shit. It wasn't enough for me to go on Twitter and talk about, right? They need something. They need to generate something to have people on Twitter talking, just like we did with WandaVision, just like what we were doing with Loki. The truth of the matter is, I'm grasping at fucking straws here, bro. We're watching a show of people who can shapeshift and evolve, and the conversation is not centered around who all in the MCU is a Skrull. The conversation is centered around AI. The conversation is centered around what? I don't know what people are talking about with this shit. About how mid, like, it's not mids compared to the other shows. Like, to me, it's a pretty good. My man's Adam from Fan Jackson. He said it pretty well. He said it feels like a pretty good ABC show. Cable television. That is exactly as good as it feels. That's exactly as good as it feels. Just like that. Just like a good one of those shows. That is not when you're living in a world of Invincibles, when you're living in a world of The Boys, when you're living in a world of The Last of Us, when you're living in a world of fucking Rick and Morty's, when you're living in a world like when you're living in a world with these shows, Stranger Things. You know what I mean? God, what was that show I just finished? There's so many good streaming shows. When you're living in a world of that, you can't go for good cable television. And that's what this shit felt like. It just felt like good cable television. It's not doing anything to wow you or blow you away. And I think that is partly because they're tiptoeing in their own shit. They're not showing us the biggest characters. They're not showing us the biggest what ifs. They're not taking us where they need to go. What they needed to have at the end of this episode was people on Twitter. Before I could wake up and watch the episode, I needed to be worried about getting spoiled on Twitter. I have not once seen a photo involving Secret Invasion with that spoiler warning tab over top of it. And that's just facts. I have not once seen that with that tab put over top of it. You got to take that into account. We're just judging how well this episode really did. Like, as good. What's going on, Daniel Fisher? What's popping? What's going on, Peter Parker Peters too, man? How y'all doing? Look, as good as a show as it was for us, it wasn't as good as as a show that it needed to be to grab your like normie audience. I would say sub-norm, not even your normie. I would say your casual audience. What made Marvel so big in the movies was that they were able to grab your casual audience. What made WandaVision so good and successful as a show, it laid out the pieces to really grab and capture your casual audience. A lot of people, when you ask people who aren't sweaty, like if I was to go ask my wife right now, what was the best Marvel show? She would say WandaVision. If you ask a lot of us sweaties, we probably say Loki. But WandaVision was able to be on a more broader spectrum, capturing like the what ifs, capturing the oh shit moments that like kind of made people have to see it before you got spoiled. Right? Had you waiting week to week. I don't even think this did a good job of making hints or setting hints as to what's to come next. Or to really add stakes of the hints of what's to come next. Now it's fair. With WandaVision, we were dealing with an Avenger. And that's another big caveat. With WandaVision, we were dealing with an Avenger. We were dealing with someone who had almost just defeated Thanos, who is becoming the Scarlet Witch. That's one of the reasons that it was on the scale that it was. The same with Loki. Look, if Loki ended and didn't have King the Conqueror, if He Who Remains ended up being He Who Remains and not a variant of King the Conqueror, Loki would have had people would view Loki so differently. I promise you. But the fact of the matter is, it had King the Conqueror. Since then, these shows have been pretty much inconsequential. And since then, these shows haven't done shit. I mean, am I spending like, is that making sense? Like, since Loki and WandaVision, two shows that actually were one was pretty important with the character of Wanda, and it was letting people down and it brought in fucking Pietro, right? Like, it was setting us up, and it did let people down at the end, but it was really setting us up for some real shit. And it had an event. Loki is Loki, and it had King the Conqueror at the end. This show needs that. Look, the truth of the matter is, a Marvel show can be saved with the 6th episode. The truth of the matter is, this episode was solid enough to carry us through. And the rest of the episodes are kind of like, I'm hearing that it gets crazier in episode 2. If it does indeed get crazier in episode 2, that's one thing. But if we stay at this level, that ain't it. You gotta climb the ladder. You gotta have this last episode where she's talking about you got the people locked up and she don't even know who they are. That's the one that has to take off. That's the one that has to do it. Let me see what y'all saying in the comments here. They don't seem willing to alienate the film only audience. The films inform the shows, but the shows have not informed the films. Which was the same issue with AOS and the Netflix shows. They promised that they would be different, but it hasn't yet. Well, I'll take it back. WandaVision was essentially viewing for Multiverse of the Madness, but it got some hate because people were blindsided by Wanda's heel turn. And that's from Parker Peters. Look, Mom, let me address your first one here. Honestly, I'm with you. But here's the thing. The show doesn't have to influence the movies. How'd I put it? The tail doesn't have to wag the dog. If the show is the tail, it doesn't have to wag the dog when it comes to the movies. When they were talking about shows, and I think if you take a trip back to phase 3, I think phase 3 was really the first time when I kind of craved to have MCU shows in between MCU movies. I think that was the first time I craved it. And I think it was the first time I craved it because it was coming apparent that these other shows weren't really connected. So I necessarily didn't care about seeing. I did enjoy like Daredevil and those Netflix shows, right? But I wanted to see a continuation of what happened in the movies, the in-betweens. I wanted to see those in shows, and that hasn't even happened yet. Like, I don't think the shows have to. I think the shows did exactly what WandaVision did. Bridge the gap between where she left after Vision died into how she got to where she was now to one of her kids. That's what these shows had to do. And that when you watch the movie, WandaVision came up. Now we're seeing that with the Marvels and Miss Marvel. Like, Miss Marvel's going to do that with the Marvels. They're going to at least try to do something like that. But it still won't be to the same effect because Miss Marvel didn't reach for anything. If they made Miss Marvel about explaining the Nord dimension and setting up lore, if they did a good job of using Miss Marvel as a way to set up lore for Captain Marvel, then that would have been a much better show. But instead, God, I can't even barely remember what they made that show about, but it was more about her than it was about the actual implications of what's happening in the MCU. But I guarantee you, if they made Miss Marvel more about explaining, more tied into what the plot is going to be about for Miss Marvel, for Captain Marvel, for the Marvels. So much Marvel shit is getting confusing. If they made Miss Marvel's plot more about what that story is going to be about, that would have been another thing. And yeah, they could have told Kamala's origin story through that. Like, I don't even think you had to focus. To me, that was probably the downfall, Daniel, of Kamala, of Ms. Marvel, was that they made it too much of Kamala's origin story. Either way, I'm getting off track here. All I'm saying is, they need something fucking big to make us talk. And those people that are locked away, that Gaia hasn't been able to see yet, they better be fucking big. I'm talking, they better be superheroes. You know what I mean? They better be superheroes. Now, when I say that, you think, wow, there's not really that many left. And that could be true. But you can introduce us to superheroes this way. Maybe have some Black Widows in there. Maybe have some Wakandans in there. Find ways to make them matter and have one or two at a grand scale. And you know, this is probably one of the problems, the reasons why I like not having Tony Stark in Captain America in the story hurts. Because there's no way you can do that with them. Like, they didn't have to kill them, bro. But either way, I digress. That's what they need to do. And also, like, eventually we need to get to the point in this show where they're, like, showing how the Skrulls impacted what we saw in the earlier phases of the MCU. I need to know that the Skrulls have been messing around with shit. Like, that's the only way I think it really hit. For them to really want the show to, like, to go to the next level as far as what this invasion really means, I think we need to see moments throughout history in the MCU of where they impacted it. Of, wow, if Rhodey was a Skrull, show me him being a Skrull in these moments in the MCU. Like, go back and show it to us. I think that's what I would like to see. And I know it might piss a lot of people off for them to go back and maybe ruin these moments or retcon these moments. But that's how you generate, like, that would generate the buzz. That would get people talking on Twitter about the show. And to be real, it doesn't have to be a grand scale moment. It doesn't have to be a huge moment. But this should show, like, these people actually have history of being a Skrull in the past. Look, it could be even somebody being a Skrull as Rhodes, looking at Rhodes on the TV screen, but then actually being Rhodes somewhere else. Something as simple as that. Just to show that they were around through the whole entire saga. You don't got to go ham and say the people at Tony Stark's funeral were Skrulls. Like, you don't have to go that deep into it. Like, I'm not asking for that. But what I am asking for is just a little bit of history in the MCU with the Skrulls to kind of, like, give it some more gravitas, if you will, right? Like, to make it hit a bit better, dog. That's all. But let me. I went off on Parker Peters' point, but let me hit up J Field. Let's see what J Field had to say. It's good to see you, brother. He said WandaVision had the Hex, Loki had the TVA. The other shows weren't as interesting to watch week to week. and that is a straight up truth, bro. Like the other shows didn't have larger implications. We had to figure that. Look, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the first couple of weeks were cool. Like we was like, oh shit, like it's really like that. But then we started to realize this shit really doesn't mean shit. Then we started to realize this shit really doesn't mean anything. Nothing's at stake here. Like nothing is really happening here. As opposed to Wanda, while we're trying to figure out how she has people locked up, we're trying to figure out how Vision is alive. We're trying to figure out what is Sword, who is Sword. We're trying to figure out like what's going on with the Darkhold. We're trying to figure out how she's gonna become Scarlet Witch. With Loki, we're trying to figure out like, yo, what's happening with the multiverse? Who's running the TVA? Is it Kang? Is it Kang? Is it Kang? And then it turns out it's a variant of Kang. Then like, what the fuck happens in the next shows? Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you're wondering like, damn, are we gonna see Old Man Cap? You keep building. Ooh, we do get to see. God dog it. What's his name? Elijah Bradley. We do get to see him, right? We do get to take that path, right? We do get to see Zemo. Zemo was one of the best parts in there. But other than that, like the shit that actually had to deal with Sam went downhill because it had no big impact. There was nothing to move forward from it. I don't need to tell you about She-Hulk. What If was a great show. It's just it was animated, but What If was a great show, and I think What If has large implications on the MCU, which is why I put What If to be like the third best show from the MCU on Disney Plus. What made Hawkeye bearable was you're dealing with an Avenger, but also you kind of get a little bit of insight into like, whoa, Kingpin is actually here. Kingpin was a big draw for Hawkeye. And then you go further downhill with Moon Knight. Look, Moon Knight had that intrigue in the first episode because you're trying to figure out the mystery of what's happening. But then, like, in trying to figure out where Moon Knight went wrong, I think Moon Knight went too far left in like episodes 4 and 5 and lost who they were as far as being gritty. They lost themselves in themselves. And then by the time we got to episode 6, we were way too off. Well, maybe it was episode. Yeah, I think it was 6 episodes. Whatever. By the time we got to the final episode in Moon Knight, we were way off. All that to say, J. Phil, you're right. These shows have lost their interesting points week to week. And I hope that Secret Invasion can keep that. Yeah, I got the reshoots were to add the necessary spice, but it also has to leave Nick in a place. Yeah, where he set up the Marvels. You're right. We know Nick is going to survive because the Marvels. You damn right. Damn, my chat just jumped down on me. Where am I out here? Wonder if this is a great example to do both. Agreed. They went so much on the human element as opposed to the larger cosmic role or inhuman/mutant element. Exactly, Daniel Fisher. Like that was their downfall. Like really, the visuals and like the kind of style that they shot, Miss Marvel was pretty good. But yeah, with the story, they just focused too much on the human element. They focused too much on that, and like explain what the North. Like, go deeper into the Noir dimension. Explain that shit cosmically. You know what I mean? Set up, do something to leave Easter eggs that sets up Miss Marvel. I mean, the Marvels. And I'm gonna be real, like, to me, and y'all know my whole theory on incursions and everything, and I haven't really gotten into into Miss Marvel. I mean, into the Marvels and like, you know, the whole jump point stuff and how I think that has something to do with hard light, all that good stuff. They just didn't make it blatant. I think they had to make that blatant enough to make people to draw interest there. I don't even know if any of the current heroes could matter because none of them have. Yep, that's fact, Peter Parker's. When I said that, Peter Parker's like it really set in as far as like, are there even any heroes that we would really care about? They only got a selection of like maybe 3 or 4 heroes on Earth that we would care about and that would make sense for them to be Skrulls. It's not many. It's really not many at this point. So what's now even the best time to do a secret invasion? Well, let's be real. It's not about superheroes, duh. But one cool thing though, I guess it would be cool to see like maybe a John Walker, your Skrull. Like they have his body in there. That maybe be cool to see. I would love for them to see Valve or Tesla. Like I love to see that be a body that's back there. Because I have a big theory that she's one, or even Sharon Carter. I would like to see her be one as well too. But that's a very good point. It's not that many. Not to state it for sure facts. Imagine the Skrull being Rhodey long enough to have. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that though. I'm not a fan of that. They shouldn't have called this show Secret Invasion. You're right. They really shouldn't have. Our main lives. He does. Our main does live. My chat just jumped down on me. Where was I? Trinity, what's going on, bro? Thanks for dropping in. Trinity says, Second Street Marvel. Since Falcon and the Winter Soldier was woke, literally. But that was sort of the point. Yeah, that was sort of the point, right? Don't get me started on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Everybody knows how I feel about Falcon and the Winter Soldier here. That shit was the most mid shit ever. Man, my man Sam Wilson did not win a single fight in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Y'all know that, right? If you don't know that, go back and see how many solo fights Sam Wilson won. How many people one-on-one when the fight came to fisticuffs and Sam Wilson knocked out? Tell me your answer and get back to me. You telling me the main man in the show ain't knocking nobody out, but you can go over there and watch Yelena Belova and Haley and God, I'm blinking on these names. Yelena Belova, Kate Bishop knock people out. You can go over there and watch Black Widow knock people out in her movie. Shit, I'm losing my mind here today. I'm gonna have to cut the stream early today because I'm out of it. I actually popped on. I'm a bit tired. I don't know if you can tell. Like I'm kind of pushing my energy out. I'm a little bit tired today, but we gonna get through it. Skrulls are actually villains, at least. That is true, Carl. What's going on, my man? At least it is true. Like at least they're actually villains. Skrull Kang variant at the end would be dope. That would be a dope tie-in to see. I would like to see that. That would be pretty cool. The Isaiah stuff was cool. He was amazing. And they should have done more with it, but they didn't. They didn't. Intro of TV shows given no... Yeah, intro characters in TV shows given no stakes. Exactly. It's been asked for that. I thought Rhodey Struggles was getting a bank. Hey, I want to see that too, right? Sam Jack's found an apartment after being in space. Yeah, I was like, yeah, that'd be a good little rhyme. Good point. Yeah, you're right. But he went woke in a different type of way, all right? He went woke in a way that I don't think Elijah really appreciated it. But I felt like at the end of the day, Elijah was like, you know what, boy, do your thing. If this is what you took from it, at least you took something from it. Relationships and character are important, but fans want to see comic lore. Exactly. Build out this lore. Build that shit out. That's what we really liked when they were... That's what makes underrated movies come back, when you build out that lore. That's what you need. That's what they need, like, right now, is to be building out the lore so that you can just focus hard on action in these next movies. You know what I mean? Building out that lore so that, like, you remember Tony Stark was like, in Avengers and Age of Ultron. He's like, that up there, that's the end game. When you're seeing when you're seeing the pieces of things come together, we need that in these shows, and it's not happening. My opinion, the only show that had a solid season finale was Loki. C-Dub, you're not lying. You're not lying, C-Dub. Now, Moon Knight would have had a bomb-ass season finale if they showed the best scenes. I'm so tired of Marvel doing that shit. I'm not even talking about the Jake Lockley scene, but you know the scene when Amit's dude, Dr. Harlow, was going in there to fight the Idiot. And everybody was transforming and they just completely blanked away from it. Is this not Marvel? Do we not want to see that shit? And then when Jake Lockley goes off and starts fighting people, is this not Marvel? Do we not want to see that shit? They could have had a very solid finale, but they just dropped the ball on it. They just dropped the ball on it. My chat keeps going down on me, but I see Daniel Fisher wants to do the Zemo dance. Relationships are important, but why do I feel like my music has just been on repeat? Why do I feel like my music has just been on repeat this whole time? Ain't nobody saying nothing. I can't wait to see Captain America again. Why? He's not Captain America, Trinity. He is a U.S. agent. Sharon is a Skrull. I definitely feel like Sharon is a Skrull. One of the big Thunderbolts should be a Skrull for sure. I think so, and I would love for Val to be a Skrull. We need Rick Jones. Rick Jones, bitch. Kind of just got here, but yeah, I should watch Agent Carter. Heard it's good. Go knock yourself out. I mean, if you got time, bro. Brooke, if you got time to go watch Agent Carter, go watch Agent Carter. You better than me. You're better than me. Power Broker Skrull. I thought the first episode of Secret Invasion was alright. I liked it. Yeah, it was alright. I liked it too. The speech at the end was so bad. It was, bro. It was. That speech at the end of Secret Invasion was so cringe. And coming from him too, bro. Anthony Mackie, I fuck with you, dog. Don't make me rewatch Falcon. Yeah, it has been a while. I think the biggest reveals that we could get from this show would be Rhodey, Power Broker, are you trying to say Val, C-Dub, and then maybe U.S. Agent, maybe Elena Belova and Zemo. I wouldn't want Zemo to be one, but yeah, those other ones I would like. Yeah, Brooke, Emilia Clarke's been killing it. Where's Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi is in China, I guess. No, Shang-Chi is in California. That's where Shang-Chi is. And maybe he's still with Wong? Maybe Shang-Chi is still with Wong, trying to figure out like what that signal was calling out to. Maybe he's with Wong doing that, or he could be in Tai Lao. There's interesting places he could be. He could be anywhere. He could be anywhere. All Moon Knight needed was post-credit scene showing gore, slaughter. It needed something like that, bro. But they're just like, they weren't thinking. They weren't thinking. You have a show coming out a month before a movie about a God-killing person. Not only that, you have a whole pantheon of gods. Mount Olympus. You don't even show the one that we know. Now, to be real, Khonshu wouldn't be the type of person to pull up there. Because they weren't there for an Urshan meeting. They were just there for fun. Khonshu don't be there for fun. I would imagine that's where the other guys would be. But they're dead. So I guess it makes sense for them to not be in that movie. But Gore should at least pulled up or did something. But you know, when you think about it, Gore would actually fuck with Moon Knight. I mean, fuck with Khonshu, because Khonshu actually does something. I think of it as choose your own adventure, but producer style. You have to choose which scenes not to have to save the bank. Yep, I think so as well. Yeah, yeah, you can take Haley Atwell and anything. The MCU needs to go back to doing traditional origin stories. That's one of the things that gets viewers interested in these characters. What do you mean by traditional? What do you mean by that? By like movies? By like having like the first movie be the origin story? I mean, I think that's what really got people in. I think that worked really well for Shang-Chi. And even though it wasn't her origin story, I think Yelena Belova, out of all the stuff that was going on when it came out, it was there. Like I think she's here now because she got through the movie. So even like I would be interested to see a Yelena Belova show because she got through the movie. This is more of I'm interested to see Nick Fury get his screen time because he got through the movie. Man. You know he's a fucking legend. You think it's a signal to Battle World? I think it's an invitation to Battle World for Secret Wars. I don't think so. I don't think it's an invitation to Battle World for Secret Wars. I've never put my like quite finger on it. It's like what kind of signal it is. But it's like, to me, it is like a cosmic signal. Oh, he did say that, didn't he? But I will say the little orb in the Eternals, I don't think that is the case. I think the little orb in the Eternals is a gateway to the beyond. And I know that the Celestials in comics don't technically live in the beyond, right? But in this case, and based on what they did in the Defenders run, I think the Celestials would live in the beyond, and the Celestials would grant the source of the power of the Beyonder. And if they can have life sustained longer without it having to restart, I think the Celestials will allow that to happen. Um, but yeah, that's my thought there. It's the same sound from the Eternals in that post credit scene. I had to go back and listen to that again. What's going on, Mike Porter? Mike Popcorn Porter. Mikey has been slipping ever since he said that. Yo, certified gumbo, what's happening, partner? What's going on, bro? I think the beacon is multiversal. That was the point of Captain Marvel saying she's never seen anything like it in space. Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Like, I've never come solid on the theory as to what that beacon could mean, bro. Like, the closest thing to me was that it was something to a celestial. Either that, or maybe it's something to the TVA, because I do kind of have a theory, too, that Kang the Conqueror, well, He Who Remains, had gone back and put stuff into the sacred timeline, like the bangles, like the 10 rings. He kind of going back and put those things in time. And those things could be a signal of assembling something or something. I don't know. That one is always kind of going over my head. Maybe I should take a second and think about that shit. Like, I should actually take some time and minutes and think about that one. But cool, my bro. It's good to see you in here, dog. How's everything been going, bro? That's what they don't know what it is. Maybe. I feel like they know about Animanium. So Shang-Chi has the bangles. Bangles. It's now the periodic table. Yeah. Hey, but look, man, look. I'm gonna go ahead and take my tired ass on up out of here. But look, I appreciate everybody coming here, stopping through. It's good seeing my OG folks like Mike Porter, man, Coop popping in at the end, dog. It's good to see you, bro. Daniel Fisher, man, my man's Justin, man, my man's Peter Parker, man, my man, the talented Mr. Griffin, man, my man's Carl. Yo, everybody that if I'm forgetting your name, charge it to my head and at my heart. Thanks for dropping up in here. Look, I will see y'all. I got council meeting next Tuesday, so I either see y'all next Monday or next Wednesday. And if not either one of those days, you definitely see me with some shorts, and you'll definitely see me on Thursday next week. Look, I appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, Coop, you missed the stream. My bad, man. But we'll be back another day. Another day, man. But yo, much love, y'all. I'll catch y'all on the next one.